Hey, we're live.
Hey, welcome everyone.
Hey,
Welcome to today's installment of our webinar. The topic is the 2024.03 release. I see a lot of attendees coming in. Welcome everyone. Today we of course have with us Ron van den Berg. Hello.
hey guys, really good to have this release webinar. I'm really excited to see what's coming, Sean. I have no idea.
We also have Sean, of course, with us with all the content. You have a lot of store for us
today? Yeah. Typical. We'll try to cram in as many demos as I can.
Okay, so we got to hurry a little bit. Of course, everyone, if you can go to the next slide, Sean, we've got room for questions. There's a Q&A button at the bottom, so everyone can fill in their questions there, and I'll try to interrupt Sean as much as possible to get those questions answered. We'll put up a poll at some point with a few questions for everyone. We always try to gauge what everyone thinks, so we have 3 questions in a poll. And of course, relax and sit back, listen to the demos. I think Sean has 7 demos for us, so let's get into that really quick.
Launch the poll, so please, if you get a chance throughout the webinar, try to answer three simple questions. And yeah, thanks, Victor. Ron, did you want to say anything else, or shall I get going?
No, I'm just excited, and you have a lot of stuff to tell, so I give you the floor.
Yeah. So we have a tradition. We always do these webinars with demos first, so we can cut to the chase. There's a lot of little things to show, so I did about 6 or 7 mini demos with also a teaser of what's coming. We have some important announcements too, but I put that to the end, so please stick around to hear those announcements as well. We'll talk a bit about the roadmap, and we'll leave some time to answer questions. So let's do this. Demo number 1. In this release, 2024.03, we made improvements to the form editor, introducing a feature called dynamic snapping guides. And this is to help developers with their experience of laying out forms, pretty much meant for the simple layout or CSS position type form. So let's take a look at what that is like. I'm going to share Servoy Developer. Can one of you confirm that you can see the Servoy IDE?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to switch over to the form editor. Yeah, so the past, I think if you're laying out components, you could always select the components and in the properties panel, edit manually the CSS position property to make sure everything's lined up nicely. I always felt that was very tedious. So now if you wanted to say, have these buttons line up and maybe be the same width. Maybe you want them to be spaced equally apart. You can do it like that quite easily. You can align something to a midline. So you can see I'm on the vertical midline here, or I could also do it on the horizontal midline like that, right? And so, yeah, pretty much that's the feature. It's, I would say, partway complete. So we got the easier parts working. We plan to do another release of this where we get some more of those items working. Let me just switch back to the overview, just to summarize that. So the way it works is that when you're dragging an object on the form, it snaps to any edge of another object. You can snap it so that there's equal spacing between objects. You saw that when I aligned the buttons, I could kind of position one perfectly in the middle. You can also snap to an object midline, both horizontal and vertical. So all of these work in both axes. You can, I didn't show where you can configure this in settings. If you go to the settings, you can kind of tweak in the Servoy form editor settings, you can tweak the snapping tolerance. So if you find that it's a little too snappy, you can make the pixel tolerance smaller. It also helps if you get a crowded form with lots of components. You want it to be a bit more sensitive. You can turn that a bit smaller. Again, we're just kind of starting with this one in the feature roadmap for the form editor. One thing that does not work is if I were to multi-select components and want to take a group of components and move them and snap to an object. That does not yet work. That's coming. Same size snapping. So when you're resizing, you get the snapping, but we could also provide a guide that will say, yeah, it will be the same size as another component somewhere else on the form, which would be quite handy. And then if you think about what I just showed you, it's nice for top left anchors. But if you have something which is anchored right, and then you snap to the right edge of that, what does that mean? Because then when the screen blows up and that component slides to the right, the object that you snap to it doesn't, right? So we have to do some combinations to figure out how to handle object snapping when you snap to a non-top left anchored component. But in the meantime, if you could try out this feature, it's available, and give us your feedback if you find anything not working correctly, or if you have ideas on ways to improve it. That's demo number one. Demo number two, you may have noticed that my IDE was in dark mode. And so we enhanced the dark mode to make a proper dark theme, and we created some compatible icons. Let me just switch back to the IDE and show you how to enable that. If you go to your window preferences, so there's two things you want to set. One is in general, you have appearance, and you have the themes here. We added Servoy Dark. There used to be like the Eclipse Dark, but you want to choose Servoy Dark, okay? And that'll get you the dark mode. But then the one other thing you'd have to set if you like dark mode is to come to the Servoy general ones, and it's this one here, use dark theme icons. So once you click that, then you have to restart the IDE. That's why I didn't show it in the demo. I don't want to restart the IDE in the demo. You do that, restart the IDE, and your screen will look like this. So give it a try and let us know if you don't find anything working correctly. Oh, also, while I'm in here for the previous demo, if you see the form editor preferences here, here's where those titanium form designer settings are for the snapping tolerances. So you can go in and tweak them right here. All right. Let's
Sean, this also will do the code coloring, right?
The syntax highlighting. Yeah. That changes in dark mode, but that's also a preference in the script editor. So you can set those colors to whatever you want.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So just go in and in preferences and restart, and that's how you get it working. Demo number 3, ECMA6 Plus. So Servoy has been slowly adding support beyond. So originally we were on ECMA 5, which is an old but simple version of JavaScript. We've been more and more adding support for ECMA 6 and beyond, so that you can use more modern JavaScript syntax. We've been doing that over the past couple of major releases. And in this one, we add support for iterables. And it's just a syntax. Iterables are a kind of object in later versions of JavaScript that you can use in for loops directly. So we have iterable objects like JS found set, view found set, data sets, and I'll show quickly what that looks like in the IDE. So switching back to here. So, and I just have this typed out right now. You can use the for let syntax. So before you would have to do something like for and then a JS found set for loop, and you have to set your iterator, found set get size, etc. Right? So that whole complicated loop where you get the record in the first line, you don't have to do that anymore. You can do this syntax, and you'll get code complete on the object itself. So if I start to type in here on that rec object, you can see I get the code complete. It knows that it's a record of this found set, which is based on the example data products data source. So that's how I'm able to get that. And it iterates nicely over that just the same, and we'll print it out. You can also do this on a JS data set, but I'll save that part for my next demo. This is just a simple syntax you can do for iterations. For my next demo, which is maybe a bit more exciting. Oh, sorry. In two demos, I want to tell you about a breaking change. Then we'll come back to the CoPilot demo, and I'll show you the other for-let syntax for JS data sets. But for demo number 4, I think it's important to identify things that can break. So every release, in our release notes, we tell you what's new, what bugs are fixed, but if there's anything that could potentially break your solution when you upgrade that you need to know about, we document that and share it. And I always try to highlight it in the release webinars. So in this release, if you are using deeplinks where you reference a method, so you're calling a function when you launch a solution, that will no longer work unless you do one of two things, and I'll show you what they are. So first, excuse me, let me show you some code that I wrote here to handle a deep link. I have to switch my share back to the IDE. In the Solution Explorer, you can see here I have scopes, demo, and my deep link. And it's a very simple solution where if this deep link method gets called, I'm just printing out to the console deep link, and I'm showing a dialog that says that this was passed in from a deep link. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to my browser and make a new tab here, and hopefully it's still in my history. There. So you can see the deep link there where it says scopes.demo my deep link, right? So it should call that method. But unfortunately, I don't see the dialog here. So this is what you'll experience as well. Your solution will launch, but your method won't be called. So you have to do something to enable that. Switching back to the IDE. Now, if you want to make a function or method deep link callable, you have to add the deep link tag like this. And this is a kind of a security thing, right? Because this gives you as a developer greater control over which methods are directly callable. Someone who actually knew the details of your code could call your deep link methods directly. And this will prevent them from being called accidentally or unauthorized. Only these methods which expose with the deep link tag will be callable. And I'm going to switch back one more time to try to confirm this. So let's do this one more time. So now it is being run and it says called password deep link. So that confirms that it's working. Just the highlights on this in slide 10 here. Again, it won't be called unless you use the deep link tag. There is a way to override this. So we understand that if you do an upgrade, and great that there's a tag, you can add this, but maybe you have 100 different methods which are deep linkable. You don't have a good inventory of which ones are and which ones aren't. And you want some more time to be able to process that. So as a workaround, you can, in your Servoy properties file, put in this property legacy deep links set to true, and that will allow you to go back to the old way. So you can override it. And so all of your methods will be deep linkable. We recommend that you don't do that as a permanent step, but if you want to buy yourself some time and then go through and identify and add those deep link tags and release it at your own pace, that's the right way to do it. All right. Now we get to the CoPilot for Eclipse. Victor, you can see I just want to make sure we're looking at the slide still. Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. And everyone, don't
forget
to send in your questions if you have them. I haven't received it.
Because I'm switching back and forth, and sometimes I forget to switch, and then we're looking at the wrong thing.
I could see everything.
Okay, awesome. So as you guys may know, we've been following developments in AI and large language models. We've been adding support for those both to the IDE and also to our cloud. And we're interested in how it can help with development, but also how you can use it in applications that you build yourself. And we've been following the development of CoPilot, which is kind of the marriage between GitHub and OpenAI, and it's basically it's a language model that's trained on the whole of GitHub. So it knows a lot about software development languages, but it also knows a lot about open source public repositories, and it's drawing a lot of training on that. So now there is an extension for Eclipse, which can install CoPilot right in Eclipse. And I'm going to show what that looks like because it's pretty interesting. So switching back to the IDE. Minimize this. So let me show you how to set this up. So step one, you gotta make a GitHub CoPilot account. There you can get it. I think it's $10 a month. You can get a 30-day trial though and try it out. And once you do that, you go in Eclipse to the Eclipse marketplace, which is installed by default in the latest releases of Servoy. And this is to install extensions. You come in here and you just search for CoPilot. And this is what it looks like. It's the little robot. You can see I've already installed it, but I wanted to show you where to install it. So you'll click the install button. You'll go through the accept the end user license agreement, and then you have to sign in. You'll sign. Once you do that, it'll you'll get this CoPilot menu, and then you can see for me it says sign out of GitHub, but you won't be signed in. So then you have to sign into GitHub. It'll do like an OAuth trip out to GitHub, and then you have to authorize your GitHub account to be used in the extension here. Once you do that, then you get complete access to this menu. You also get the little CoPilot robot down in the corner. It's kind of the same thing. And then code completions will be enabled by default. I disabled them so that you wouldn't see them until now. So now I'm going to re-enable them. So now you can see it's enabled. And now you can do things like, I'm going to start to do a comment block here. And I want to say query order details and summarize. Let's do total quantity. By top 5 products. Okay. So sure, we'll call it suggesting the name of the method. And if we pause for a minute, yeah, it's using raw SQL. Let's do something else. Let's do data sources. It was suggesting more things earlier. So it's the way these language models work. I'm going to store that. And now it's saying, let me just change my comment here to product name. There, q.columns.product name, q.columns.quantity.sum. That sounds right. q.groupby.add, q.columns.product name. It's not quite right because it should be using the join. Same with this one. You can see that there's a warning there. So if I do joins, there, now it got product name. And it's the same for this one. There. That looks This is not
I
products.
think that table is called products.
Yeah. So this is something interesting about the Servoy code completion is very deterministic. We have a tree of your whole. This would be order details to products. Yeah. We have a tree of your whole solution, and we're able to and this would be columns, right? I had more and I have a solution with more examples of Query Builder loaded. It learns a lot better the syntax, but this is something that's interesting. The difference between a large language model is that it's just predicting text versus something like our parser, which generates code completion, is very deterministic. It knows exactly what all your options are, and it kind of winnows down. And you can see the difference between the way they work. I had some other code loaded, so it also uses your whole workspace to guess from, and then it gets a little more accurate. When I had a larger solution loaded, it gave me a bit more accurate suggestions. Here now it's suggesting that we sort by the quantity sum descending, which is correct. If you wanted the top 5 products, you would want that aggregate, but by descending. So that is right, because that's on the order details itself. So it guessed right there. I don't think we need the order ID. So what we would want to do is to get the query then, get the data set. There. So I gave it a little, but
Sean, do you just prompt it by writing a comment there?
Yeah. So there now that's right, except for that I want again the top 5 products. Get a data set of top 5 products. Maybe it will get it better now. Of course, you have to hit a return, and that wakes it up. Yeah, it's still getting the -1. Before it was getting that limit. Hit the tab key to get it, and then it would get 5. So that would be the right thing, and then iterate and print to the console. See, it didn't do the 4let. The last time I did this, it did the 4let. That's and this is where I wanted to show you guys you could let row of DS. Now it's getting it right. And then you get row.product name and row.sum. This warning here is actually a Servoy bug, which I think we just fixed in the latest dot release on this. If you put the let outside, it goes away. And you do it like that. And then it, anyway. But that's, I wanted to show you 2 things there. A bit of a preview of what you can do with CoPilot. It knows JavaScript really, really well. It knows Servoy APIs very less well, but it will know more based on what's in your workspace. And we're exploring ways that we can connect our own model of your solution with what are the real options for, say, code completion, with what are suggestions that are more creative that you would get from an LLM. But hopefully that gets you curious about maybe what's possible. It's certainly on our minds. And let's go back to our script here. So just to summarize, the way you do this is you got to create your account on GitHub, enable the extension in the marketplace client in Eclipse. And then once you install it, you have to sign in and trust, do all the trust stuff, the end user license agreement, and then you get that menu, and then you can start with code completions. Oh, I forgot to show one thing, really important. Sorry. The other thing that's nice, Victor, am I back in the IDE? The other thing that's nice is that I didn't show any of this. So you can select a block of text, and then you get a context menu. And you can do explain, fix, generate docs, simplify.
So you can let CoPilot explain my coworker's code.
Yeah, exactly. Or you can ask for a fix. I was playing around with this where there were things that were wrong, and it should pop up the maybe I have minimized it. There. So you get this whole side panel where you can chat with the bot and ask it questions. It says it can't detect any problem. If you ask it to explain, weird that it's not popping up. I think it's because I have it minimized. No, I'm not sure. So now you can see that it's telling you what each line is doing. That's weird. The window went away. I think there I have to restore it. That's why I didn't have it actually anchored. Yeah, and it goes through and it explaining what's going on there. So yeah, you can use that to read your coworker's code. I did have some limited success with having it fix problems. It will definitely fix like JavaScript syntax problems. It will also suggest more optimized ways to do things. Again, it knows quite a lot about common programming languages. It knows less about Servoy specific APIs and things, but it will learn a lot from your workspace as well. And I expect that only to improve. So it's interesting. So give it a shot. Now switching back to.
We got a question that's maybe good to answer right now. It's a
Yeah,
question
sure.
that we always get when talking about AI, which is probably fair. So how much of the solution is used to train the CoPilot?
Well, training is sorry, I'm getting my power adapter out. I neglected to plug in when I moved my computer up here. Training is a loaded word when you talk about AI. It's not training on any of your stuff. It's trained on GitHub, and it's trained on lots of other things, but the training happens before you use the LLM. What's happening here is it is using your workspace. I don't know what it's doing under the hood. I know it's in combination with OpenAI. I imagine that it's using parts of your workspace in the prompting, but not in the training, right? So unless you have open source GitHub repositories that have possibly been trained on by this. But that does mean that some of your source code could be sent to OpenAI in the background. So if the concern there is privacy, then yeah, you're authorizing GitHub and OpenAI to send back and forth information out of your workspace.
But it's only for prompting, not for learning.
Yeah.
The
learning happens beforehand. It doesn't train on the fly, these models.
Okay, I hope that answered the question, and if not, just send in another, of course. Okay, carry on.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that explains it. The steps to get it set up. I think it's worth a try. It's free for 30 days. You have to give it a credit card and upfront, of course, and then remember to cancel it if you don't want it. That's the way of the world now. But yeah, it's worth $10 to give it a shot, I think.
There was a second part to that question, by the way, Sean. Did we compare other code assistants?
Other code assistants? No. We were working on our own, if you remember. There is still a menu, the Servoy AI, as well. I don't know if we can compete with delivering this feature with CoPilot, but we are still using that on our cloud as well. So we're still doing our own AI development as well for well, you've seen it in the prior webinar for explaining bad queries, for example, when you see performance issues, and they can suggest indexes and fixes. So there's still a lot going on there. But in terms of a code assistant, this is probably going to progress much faster than anything we can do.
Okay.
All right. Speaking of Servoy Cloud, we have some updates on our identity access management features. So in the last release, we showed how now you can, well, we introduced the stateless login screen and a way to, without any code or any work in the developer at all, to administer users and permissions and apply that to your application. So trying to make it a lot easier and more simple to do basic security stuff and really take it out from source control and put it more in configuration and use Servoy Cloud as the identity access management platform. So we've added some things to that, including custom branding on the stateless login screen and a forgot password flow, which also can be custom branded. So let me switch over to the Servoy Cloud Control Center. And here I have my applications with some sample solutions here. I'm going to come into the Cloud Sample Solution. And here you can see I have my configuration for this application. And I can now do the security edit custom login. So this is the current login that I've set. If I come back to this application and launch it in another tab, so you can see that I have my logo, my pink background, my red button, right, for my branding. Suppose I wanted to switch this, I can come back, configure this, and let me see, I have somewhere some things I can copy paste. So I want to use the Servoy logo here. I'll put that in, and I'd like to make a bit more on brand for my primary color. Should be this one. And I think we'll do the page background the same dark as that, right? So now this is what my login screen will look like. And if I save this, turn this off. If I save this and come over here and refresh, it's live. So this is one of the nice things about the identity access management approach versus putting security stuff into completely into source code, is that you can add a user, you can block a user, you can grant a permission or revoke a permission live, real time. You don't have to put it into source code and then rebuild and redeploy, right? So this goes out live. So this is a no-code way to customize the login flow and push it live. The other thing we added, which I kind of left on by accident, is, and then I quickly switched it off, is the forgot password flow. So I can enable that. I can also change the branding on that, but here's the preview. In this case, I'm just going to leave it as the same branding, but I'm going to save it. And so coming over here, if I refresh this, so now I have the forgot password link, and I can come in here and enter my name and click reset, and it'll send the reset link to the user, and then they can go back and log in. And so all the branding and the enablement is there. There's a lot more to do here, a lot more coming. You can think about forgot password flow. Maybe the mail template is customizable, and you want to have some branding there. We understand that making it I18N enabled, I think that already works, but we don't expose it in the editor here. So, but I think there are keys for each item in the login screen. So if you put those keys on a revision control, it will work. I don't have a demo of that. So you can do logins in localized settings with different languages. But just to give you a recap, you can customize the branding for the login screen and enable and customize the forgot password flow. That's optional. And you do this by when you have set up an application in Servoy Cloud. And when you check that out, you have to, let me just show this in the IDE, in fact. This is not the same application, but if I were to come in, Victor, is my IDE up?
Yep.
Okay.
Still everything's all right.
Yeah, if you come in here to the solution and you look at the solution properties, you get the authenticator and you set this to Servoy Cloud. And if this solution is connected to the application, the same application in Servoy Cloud, then it will make that setting and you can test it right in developer. And when you push it to production, it'll use the Servoy Cloud authenticator. So that's how you get that set up. We went over that a bit in the last webinar, so you can check that out because we talked about users and groups and permissions and all of that. So this is just an extension of that. You don't have to host your application in Servoy Cloud to use Servoy Cloud as your identity access management. You can still configure users, groups, permissions, customize brand, login, forgot password flows. So we're trying to add more and more functionality there, so you don't have to code as much. You don't have to do so much in source code and redeploy to make changes what should be kind of runtime configurable. And that's the whole idea there. Also using kind of industry standard best practices. So if we look at what's on the roadmap for this, we're gonna, add quite some features in this area. Okay.
Before you continue, Sean, I got a few questions that are all kind of related or similar, and it all comes down to how this is dependent on Servoy Cloud. Can it be used on premise? Yeah, is it available outside of Servoy Cloud, and how do you use it?
Yeah, so the identity access management system is hosted in Servoy Cloud. So it's like if you were to use another third-party IAM like Okta or Auth0 or Azure AD or something. It's similar in that you put your schema in our cloud, but you don't have to run your application in our cloud. You can host it on Amazon yourself, or maybe you have a lot of on-premise installations. They can still authenticate and get permissions from the cloud. It's just a way to centralize and manage this much easier. It's not embedded in the source code. If you do it in the source code, then it's a redeploy. So it's still supported. The old way is still supported, but this is kind of a more modern and easier way to go.
And
I hope that answers the question.
Dependent on the Servoy security module?
No. The SVY security module is kind of like the predecessor of this, because that does everything on a local database. And this is meant to kind of replace that. And so some of the features that are in that are not yet here. But this also has some other features that we couldn't do there. So eventually, I think we'll have parity with what's in the SVY security module.
And is it also possible to change that login screen to maybe add a selection of a tenant?
So I'll get to that when I talk about the roadmap. Right now, no, but in coming releases, yeah, that's the idea.
Okay. And the last one, also probably related to the roadmap. Can you assure us that this will not become a paid feature going forward?
Well, it's I think part of, if you have to have the pipeline, so it is a paid feature if you're using, because you have to build the application through the pipeline in order for it to sync the permissions, right? Because the permissions come out of source code, so it syncs those from the build. And I think I demoed that in the last release webinar.
So regarding that, it is kind of dependent on Servoy Cloud, and it is a paid feature.
Yes. Yeah, it's not dependent. I misunderstood the previous question. Then it's dependent on Servoy Cloud. I mean, that's where it happens, but it's not required that you do production hosting. So the pipeline is a much lower tier feature than production hosting. Okay,
I hope that cleared everything up for everyone. That was the questions I've got so far.
Okay. So we have, I think, two more demos, micro demos, and then we'll be out of here. This one I hope is really quick. In Servoy Cloud, we added some more advanced log parsing to our monitoring. So I can show what that looks like here. So if you go to, well, let me back out of here. So I have an application here. This is actually the control for Servoy. So we build Servoy Cloud and Servoy Cloud, and this is the one of the applications we have that does a lot of sort of middle tier stuff. And if we look at production environment for that, we can see in our log activity that we have some items that need attention. So we come into the log. This has all been here for a while. I have this filtered for errors and warnings, and I can see one of my errors here. And when I click show more, that one doesn't have a, hang on, we need one that has a stack trace. There we go. And you have an error, what used to be like in your Servoy log file or in your Servoy admin page. Now we actually can parse into that and show you exactly in the code where that's happening. And we intend to continue to enable this feature to where you act on it. So I think in a previous webinar, I showed like a bad query, and then using the Servoy AI, it can generate the index for you if it sees a bad query. If the problem is an index, it could be a poorly written query or something. So here we're kind of codifying all the different errors that can happen, and then we'll have the action that you can take. So it's not just a big Java stack trace, but actually shows you in your code where the error is, and the next step is to tell you what to do so that you can apply the fix. So that's a new feature on the monitoring side. And on to our final mini demo. This is a bit of a teaser of what's coming in the next release on Servoy Cloud. We have a project management feature, and this is for doing agile development. There's a work board, there's sprint management, there's product backlog. So just a case management system for doing agile development, which is what many people in our community are doing. And again, if I come over to my screen here, so I have here for my sample sandbox project, I have my ticketing system here. We have a view of tickets. The tickets have can belong to sprints. They can have tags. They have a status, which I'll show you in the agile development. They have story points and priorities. You can search for a ticket. Look at the details here. So here's the ticket details with the description. So basic agile project management with comment threads. So I can leave a comment, excuse me. Is assigned to an assignee, and you can manage, you can upload attachments, etc. So very much like a Jira or a Fabricator type thing, but integrated into your whole system. There's backlog management. So I could come to down here and say, I want this daily report ticket to move to the current sprint. So now it's planned in sprint 1. And if I come to the workboard, I get my agile workboard. And again, I could move this. Oops. There we go. I just didn't hit my drop target. So there I can drag it in, through the swim lanes to change the status from in progress to testing to done. I can also configure these swim lanes in the admin settings over here. And one other thing that I didn't show, I think I have it on. Yeah, on this one. Sorry. I had one sample ticket here that has one of the nice features for developers is that they link to the commit history. So when you put in the ticket identifier into your Git commits, they'll link the commit hash to the ticket. And this is something developers like to do, is to see all the commits that go against a particular ticket for tracking work. So you can always trace back who did what for which ones. So that's, I'm demoing this on our UAT and dev environments. That's not yet in production. That'll be in the 2024-06, but I just wanted to give a teaser on that. So that's coming soon. Yeah, let's do a quick overview and we'll get out of here. So coming up, and just to point to all of our customers who are in Appsurance program who use a Fabricator ticketing system, agile development system, that is being deprecated. That's why we're moving away from that and just building it right into Servoy Cloud. So your projects will be auto migrated. So your tickets and your ticket histories will be imported and set up in this schema, and we're going through that right now before we roll it out. All right. Let's get to a few announcements and Q&A. So pretty important with this release, I mentioned it in the last webinar that it was coming, that this version 2024.3 will become the foundation for the LTS branch, and LTS branches have 2 years of support. So this release does contain the SmartClient, WebClient, and NG1 legacy client source code. So if you are still using those clients and you want to continue to move forward, the recommendation is that you go to this release, and then when we make the LTS build on top of this a little bit later this year, then you move to the LTS and you remain on the LTS, because the 2024.6 release will not have those legacy client types. We get to kind of clean up the code base as a result and make some improvements we've been wanting to make. The other thing that will be, I didn't list it here, that's implied in this, is we'll also remove the classic app server, which is so old that most people don't know what I'm talking about. But if you still run the Servoy server executable, which is like a bundled Tomcat, that will also not be in the coming releases. You have to stay on the LTS if you want to continue to use that. It's been recommended for a long time to do war deployments on a standalone Tomcat container. So we'll be able to clean up a lot of the dependencies around that as well, and just get the code base modernized. If you are feeling behind on making these upgrades, either from one of the legacy client types or from an older version of Servoy, we do have a services program that can help. We call it Appsurance. So we assure your upgrade goes on time and on budget. So we can help fast track you. We've done that for a number of customers. We have some templates and best practices and recipes for different scenarios that we've been kind of coming up with for each project. So contact your account rep or sales@servoy.com if you're interested in getting some help on upgrading. Another important announcement for this release, this is a security release. By that, I mean it does contain a patch for a potential vulnerability that we discovered internally. So not a known vulnerability or an exploit, but still you want to treat that with caution. This was introduced in 2024.3. So if you're older than 2024.3 right now, you're not exposed to this, but we always want to document these and let everyone know so they can update as soon as possible. If you did go to the 2024.3, we quickly made a .1 which contains the patch for it. So if you are on that, you want to upgrade to the .1. If you're coming into 2024.3 from an older version, go right to the .1. And I think we're actually making a .2 release for a different regression, not security related. So you just want to go to the latest, dot release on the 2024.3 branch. when you upgrade to make sure you get that patch. Some other announcements. You may have noticed we had a small disruption to support.servoy.com. We moved our own Jira for support off of the old Jira server onto the Atlassian cloud. All of the ticket histories and everything were migrated, so you should have access to all your old tickets. The only difference is that when you first go there, you probably have to create an Atlassian cloud account, or to set your password and all that to reset it up. But that should be the only difference. Everything after that should be the same. The tickets are there. One nice feature is that the tickets, unless they're marked private, public tickets are actually public. You don't need to log in to see them, which is kind of nice for searchability, that now they're indexed by the search engine, so you could find them in a Google search a lot easier. And also for AI training too. So AIs can train on actual content of tickets as well. So that's a good thing with that move. We've also been moving our legacy documentation to a modern site and cleaning it up and removing references to really old stuff, and trying to modernize that and make it a lot more helpful. That's an ongoing process. Docs.servoy.com is the new site, but you may notice that for pages that have been migrated and updated from the old Confluence site, we put in redirects. So if you have an old link, it should forward to the right page automatically. But let us know if you experience any issues with either of those. We're trying to make the disruption as minimal as possible and still keep everything modernized. In terms of what's coming up in the roadmap, we're going to continue to focus this year on Servoy Cloud and the identity access management features. We can add more, because we do it cloud-based, we can add more cyber features like multi-factor authentication, like password rules if you want to have passwords which need to rotate every certain time period, etc. So we're taking input from current customers on what they want on that, but we've put a few on the agenda to work on. There was a question about tenant ID, Victor, in the stateless login form. So the current security schema on Servoy Cloud IAM is not multi-tenant currently. So that's on the roadmap to make it multi-tenanted. So that will be helpful for ISV customers who want to have different tenants identified at login. So if you are interested in that, please reach out to us. We'd love to get your feedback, but it is on the roadmap. And we're looking at more advanced monitoring. So you can see what we're doing with monitoring resources with RAM and CPU and user usage and performance, both database and application performance. Doing some machine learning on the log files. So we're doing a lot of work there on the monitoring side. It's one of the benefits of making it cloud-based. And for those of you that are interested in everything that we're doing, but not interested in hosting with a third party, we understand that that's for some people never an option. We actually have this working to offer that in remote environments, we call it. So the ability to take some of the features of Servoy Cloud out of Servoy Cloud and run them yourself, but still use our cloud for the analysis and the monitoring. So we have a feature on the roadmap called remote environments, but we're also trying to gauge interest in this to see if folks are like what they see in Servoy Cloud, but would never host via third party, but are still interested in getting some of the goodies that you see in the demos. It is possible, and we're trying to come up with the right way to deliver it. So please, there was a poll question about that. So please answer that one or reach out to us about that.
I think the number of questions we have received regarding can this work without Servoy Cloud already gives us an indication.
Yeah, and by that I mean without hosting the application in Servoy Cloud. The Servoy Cloud part is absolutely required for for the other features, but you don't have to host the application. So we're also always watching the developments with AI technologies and large language models. We showed the CoPilot integration. You can see that it's very cool, but also sometimes limited. And yeah, we're interested in seeing how something like that could work with what we already do, which is really parsing and analyzing your workspace in a very deterministic way. So can you kind of combine those, right, and get the creativity of a large language model, but get the accuracy of a deterministic model and combine them? So that's something we're interested in. We're also interested in how you can use the technology within applications, not just in the developer experience, but to deliver applications that are AI enabled. There's lots of use cases for that. And so we're really looking for launching customers to do a proof of value together. So if you have ideas that you'd like to explore, our research and development team is getting now pretty experienced with this technology. So yeah, if you'd like to work together on that and bring some ideas out, we'd be happy to talk. So please contact your account rep or your nearest point of contact at Servoy for that. Finally, I would be remiss with our salespeople here if I didn't mention a summer promo here. So we're offering a 25% discount for 3 months on Servoy Cloud if you sign up by June 1. And of course, we can include the onboarding and training that would be required for that as well. So if you are interested, you want to give it a shot, or you just want to talk about it, no pressure. Please contact sales@servoy.com for that conversation. So with that, I want to thank you guys. I try to do as fast as I can. I'm sorry, it always takes quite a while to get through everything. Any other questions, Victor?
We have no questions so far, and I think you nailed the timing.
Okay.
So thanks a lot for taking us through those lot of different small topics. I hope everyone's happy with the content. If not, always we are available for questions through email. So please send them all to Sean.
All right. Excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Have a nice day, nice evening.
We'll share the slides and make the recording available as well.
All right.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you.